I've been suspect of my desire to be an educator since my sophomore year of high school, when I began coaching elementary-age wrestlers. Shortly after beginning my cadet teaching in a second grade class in my senior year, was I sure it was what I wanted to do with my life.
With the semester coming to an end, it's been about 1 year since I taught my first full lesson as a second grade cadet teacher. I taught my lesson on motion and forces. At the time, science was a fairly new concept for my students, and I wanted to make sure I set a solid foundation in which for them to build on as they continued their education. My lesson was split into 3 parts: a verbal lecture, a bodily kinesthetic activity, and an interpersonal worksheet. My students didn't have a lot of background knowledge of science, and what knowledge they did have varied from individual to individual. My first mistake was to assume that they all knew the same things and had the same predisposed information. All in all, my lesson adheres to most all the themes of social justice we've discussed. However, there were problems with the worksheet I did not acknowledge a year ago. In giving my students this worksheet, I had unrealistic expectations of them to be familiar with random things like garden tools and workout equipment. Were I designing this lesson again, I would use a different worksheet. At the time I was creating this lesson plan, I had been given a great deal of preparation for how to go about teaching my students a new subject. However, I had little to no awareness of my own cultural lens and how it might affect the way I teach. A big concern of mine at the time was whether the use of Hot Wheel cars would be as engaging for the female students as it would be for the male students. I noticed right away this wasn't a problem at all. As the Lorber readings would suggest, a preference of toys isn't something that's hardwired in sex. It's taught as part of a greater societal status quo of gender. I'm very grateful for the opportunity I had to be a cadet teacher and to orchestrate my own lesson plan, not only for the experience, but for the opportunity to reflect on that experience and use it now to better understand how the principles of culturally relevant teaching are applied in the classroom from educator to student.